Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I'm very excited to be interviewing Rishab Jolly. He's a senior product manager on the observability team at Microsoft Azure. He's also a graduate of the Eller College of Management. So we're going to speak a little bit about that, about his journey from exactly where you are today into this amazing capability. So please welcome Rishab. Hey, Rishab.
Hey, Zara, so happy to be over here. Thank you so much for having me here. And just to give you a brief introduction about myself, I'm Rishab. I am a senior product manager at Microsoft, been at Microsoft for about 8 years now. And before that, my journey started as I completed my undergrad in India in computer science engineering, and then worked for a couple of years in India as a software developer. But then I was always pulled towards the why and the business side of the organization. So that's why I decided to go for an MBA at University of Arizona Eller College of Management. And then during my MBA, we had an elective called Advanced Consulting Project, if I remember correctly. And that's where I got an opportunity to work on a project for Microsoft, right? And I think we, as a team, did a good job in landing the project. And, the person at Microsoft was pretty happy with us, and I kept networking with them, over the next 6 months. And when the opportunity was right, I graduated. I asked for a, interview, and that's how I got an interview at Microsoft. And thankfully, I was able to clear the interview in the first go itself, and land a job at in Microsoft, in the Azure department. And I just love it being here. So being here since then, working on, um, Azure Monitor Observability, where I lead the charter for this particular product for Azure.
Amazing. Yeah, what an inspiring story. I would love to hear a little bit about, what how you got into observability and what drew you to the observability domain.
Yeah. So before we go there, let me just give a brief example of what observability is. I love to give this example to folks who don't know about it or are learning about it. So think about this, like it's Black Friday, and you are a developer at Amazon.com or eBay, some large e-commerce retail, right? And suddenly your application goes down for 15, 20, or maybe 30 minutes. Just imagine the revenue loss your organizations will be facing because of that. Each second you're losing money right now, right? And as a developer, your manager is going to call you up that, hey, our application is down, customers are not able to buy stuff, you're losing money, fix it fast. Like whether it's 2 a.m. in the morning or like 10 a.m. 10 p.m. at the night, right? It doesn't matter. So as a developer, you would come to our tool, the observability tool, to get the answer for, hey, why did my application go down? Like what happened? Why are customers not able to do that? So the goal of this product is to provide you that answer, that why did the application fail? Why did the system go down and customers are not able to do that? So that's like more of a reactive kind of a situation, but also we work on the proactive side. We don't want you to be in that situation. We don't want you to wake up at 2 a.m. at the night. We want you to have a proactive system where you can set up alerts that help you, that, hey, something is going wrong, this application is going to go down, fix it right now. So that you don't get into that situation. So that's a very 10,000, 30,000 feet level view of what observability in general is. And I would consider this as a backbone of a cloud native cloud application, right? Now, talking about how I stumbled upon this, how my journey started. Initially, when I landed, my first job at Microsoft, I, whatever opportunity I got, I just took it. And observability was the first product that I got to work on. I had full transparency. I had no idea what observability was at that time, right? And but when I started working on it, I realized the importance, the impact it has, right, to millions of people out there, and the uh, importance of this particular thing has on the business outcomes, right? Because of this, customers are able to run their business successfully. But that's just business. Imagine healthcare, right? How important this is in healthcare as well. So all these kind of drew me towards it, and I just could never leave. It's been 8 years, and I still work in this domain, and I just love every bit of it because of the scale and the outcome and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very high impact work. And from that reactive point of view, it's also very like high stress, high stakes work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I I can only imagine what the observability stack for the Azure Monitor stack looks like.
Exactly.
That'd be so fun to dig into. Thank you so much for that overview of observability. I've heard it described in different places, like in the CNCF, as the observability is the ability to give answers to questions that you don't know you need to ask yet. You don't know that you need to answer those questions yet. How do you feel about that definition? Do you like it? Would you change it? What do
Yeah,
you think?
I think I love this definition because this sort of like distinguishes between monitoring and observability as well. Monitoring is about like what happened to your system. Observability is more about like what happened, why did it happen, and how can we prevent it in the future to happen for this to happen again, right? So I like this definition, but I think I'll take it one step further. It's also about empowering the engineers to ask better questions and not only answering the unknown question, but to ask the better questions as well, right? Um,
In the class, you talk about logs and traces and metrics and telemetry in general. But what's really needed for proactive observability? Like what's required for that?
yeah, no, I think before so metrics, logs, and traces, we call them the three pillars of observability. You need to have all three of these signals together, working together to get you answer the questions you're looking for, which is what is the root cause of the problem, right? Well, how can I reduce my mean time to resolve and things of that nature. But on the proactive side, it's about how can your system create intelligent alerts that detects anomalies, accounts in seasonalities, and things of that nature, and helps your system become better by these proactive detections, right? So one aspect is troubleshooting, the other aspect is detection. You need to have a strong detection, and that can only happen through intelligent alerts. One of the complaints that we keep hearing from our customers over and over again is that, hey, I have alerts that if my threshold for my VM goes above 90%, fire an alert. But in all honesty, that's a very static alert that doesn't work in the real world environment. You need to have dynamic alerts. You need to have think about a situation like Black Friday. Your load on your system is going to increase during that particular short frame of time. For one day, it's going to go above, right? So your system needs to account for that and not think of this as like an anomaly, but this is good for the business, and it needs to auto scale, have more resources spin up because of this, right? So how do you build these intelligent detections, anomaly detection, alerting system that help you in powerful proactive notifications, and or instead of me troubleshooting, can I just have a policy that auto scales my system whenever there's a surge in customer resources and asks and things of that nature. So that's where this powerful technology and tool comes into play.
Yeah, that's so smart. And yes, static thresholds don't make sense in cloud native environments. It just doesn't work. Which I think is like one of the key the key intersections between cloud native and observability, and the elasticity that we see in cloud native. And I would love if because you think about this all day, every day, when you think about observability specifically in cloud native environments, what makes what makes observability different and challenging and also so critical for cloud native?
Yeah, I think the immediate thought that comes to the mind is the world is shifting or has shifted towards a more distributed microservices architecture. Cloud native is all about microservices, right? It's there is no more do we have monolithic architectures where you can pinpoint easily if something goes down, right? So imagine us, for a cloud native application, a customer scenario on a e-commerce retail app, you go and click on the button checkout, right? That checkout button, when it's clicked, it's going to touch multiple microservices, multiple databases, events and queues and things of that nature, right? And in that event, when it's trying to execute that customer scenario of checkout, there can be a failure anywhere. Your microservices, your Java app can fail. Maybe the container that your application is running on is misconfigured. That can have a problem causing latency in your application, or there's some network problem or some Cosmos DBs, throttling happening that might cause your application to go down. So in this distributed microservices architecture, finding out what is the root cause of the problem can be finding like a needle in the haystack, right? That's where strong observability comes into play.
And how have you helped customers overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think if you ask around, number one challenge that pretty much every large organization faces today is the cost, right? Observability is not it's cheap. It's expensive. Why? Because the amount of volume of data that you're generating, right? And that data, the logs and the traces, the metrics, all of that can accrue to a huge bill. Sometimes you even see that customers end up spending like 15% of the total cloud spend on just monitoring, right? In that, like, how do we come up with features that can help alleviate this concern that customers have, about they don't want to spend so much. I mean, they understand monitoring is important, but they don't want to spend so much money on that, right? So we think about, or we release features like sampling, right? Okay, let's not, capture the entirety of the data. Let's just try to smart sample some of the data, which will help them identify this might be the problem in their, stack when the issue occurs, or can we time box it that only when the threshold is breached, alert is breached, then we start collecting data, so that we save some money versus collecting all the data all the time, right? So coming up with these strategies to help with the cost concern is one, and the second is, going back to the sort of like cloud native microservices architecture space. Today, customers, they use like different tools for different layer of the stack. They might use different tool for application monitoring. They might use different tool for infrastructure monitoring. They might use different tool for the network monitoring. But the problem now is that these are silos that are created, right? Now, when you want to troubleshoot, you want to have all the data in one place, have like a single pane of glass probably, and get the answers for the question. Is it my infrastructure, my network, or Azure that's down that's causing a problem, or what? So how do you gather all of this data in one place, correlate them, and build experiences on top of them that satisfies all the answers that they're looking for? So these are the top, I'd say, two concerns that we keep on hearing among many others.
Sure, yeah. It's really challenging because it sounds like, there's so many different kinds of data, right? So you might have NetFlow, like you said, or Cube API logs, or whatever it might be. They're heterogeneous, right? They have different features. They're going to be firing at different times. Trying to correlate that and pull all of that together into one place, and then also make sense of it. It's a big challenge.
It is. I'll give you one more scenario where we just learned that there are banking applications, right? And banking applications, they have this mandate because of auditing reasons. They need to collect 100% of their data. So sampling is not even an answer for them. They're like, nope, government has regulations and we need to collect all the data because we can get audited at any time, right? So in that scenario, how do you meet them where they are? So you think about, okay, so there are some logs which are very critical for them that they want immediately, but there are some logs that can be kept in cold storage in a cheaper tier that they just need for compliance and for policy reasons that they might not use for troubleshooting, and we can give them less features on that and give them a cold storage, latent kind of a storage over there. So that's another way to meet the customer. So it's about like understanding their scenarios, understanding being in their shoes, understanding what they want and what's important for them, what's not, and then building the product and building the experiences around them.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that financial institutions have to keep 100% of their logs.
Yeah.
And when you get to multinational level banks, that's a huge amount of volume.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. What a massive challenge. Another industry or another field that I'm sure has its own unique complications is just AI and ML. And I'm wondering, if you could speak a little bit to the new challenges. What are some of the new challenges when it comes to AI and ML production workflows? Either if it's a SaaS application or organizations that want to pull AI and ML into their product or into their workflows. What's the buzz in observability about that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, right? So how AI ML applies to observability is through two lenses. That's how we see the world, through two lenses for AI ML specifically. One is how monitor those particular LLM AI-based apps, and how do they do that? Because the monitoring or observability for these apps is very different from the traditional observability or monitoring, right? Because it's harder to model, or it's hard to monitor the model performance for a particular application that's using a model, because model tend to degrade over time slowly, versus an app can crash just in a minute or like in a few seconds, and the app has crashed. But how do you know whether the model is performing the way you want to? Is it generating the right output? Is it still relevant or not? And things of that nature, right? And then there are other things that come into play like data drift, concept drift, checking for that. Pipeline complexity for AI ML is another big example. AI ML generates large volumes of data. How do you have a data lake to mitigate that problem? So at this point, I'd say we are still learning from the observability, because it's such a new stage, and we are just learning about how things are evolving in this space and how do we need to evolve to meet customers where they are. So whatever I'm saying might be relevant in the next 6 months, and we might have a completely new strategy. That's how fast this thing is changing. So, but this is what we have learned so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It changes so fast, and yeah, and there's the benefit of having, kind of all of those services in-house in one place. Like, it makes sense for, your CSP to help you monitor the AI and ML outputs. Or if you have a platform that helps you build and deploy agents, being able to monitor those agents is very important.
Exactly.
But agentic observability is profoundly difficult. Why did this agent take this action or use this tool or whatever it is? And when you allow flexibility in how strictly that agent can perform certain tasks, or how much leniency you give it, how much agency you give your agent, it can make observability really difficult.
100%.
Yeah, it's absolutely an open research question. So I'm really excited to see what smart people like yourself are going to come up with for helping the rest of us out. Yeah, so I would love to kind of pivot for just a second and talk a little bit more about kind of skill paths and career paths. And for those who are watching this interview, my students, they're really interested in understanding, what technical skills and also what soft skills are really important for product management, and for the kind of very technical product management that you do, for example. I know it's a very broad question, but anything you'd like to say to that effect, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I do conduct interviews at Microsoft as well to hire people. And the thing that we sort of encourage, or we expect to see, is that the person who's applying, or the students right now, if they have an opportunity to learn about modern software systems, just the basics, right? How do modern software systems work? Like, what's cloud computing? What are the different resources, databases, client server architecture? How do they interact? Even if you don't know how to code per se, like a pro coder, that's fine. But you need to understand the basic concepts, because the thing is, my customer is a developer, right? If I'm not able to understand their problems, their pain points, how can I build a product that will solve their issues and problems? So you need to understand the basics. And there are so many resources out there, like Azure, AWS. They have free courses as well to learn about basics of modern cloud computing. That's one. And second, I would encourage you in university, you might have classes where you learn just about the database, or you just learn about a resource, let's say VM. But you need to think about system. How do they all come together to form an application, to form a meaningful outcome for a business, right? So how do they work together as a system is what you should be focused on. That's like a big picture thinking. That's what architects and observability folks actually think about, and that's what we use to have a conversation with the customer. So thinking about those are definitely going to help somebody starting the journey. And second, I think soft skills, the communication is extremely important, right? The power of storytelling, that if the more and more you can practice, the better you get. Because as a PM, one, you are the voice of the customer. You are supposed to understand customer pains and then relay that pain to the VPs and executives in a story fashion, right? If you just present data, the chances are that might land or not. But as a PM, your job is to paint the picture of how painful this is, what's the business outcome that's going to happen if you deliver this, and drive the organizations toward your initiative, or towards your goal that you want to accomplish, right? And the tricky part is that as a PM, nobody reports to you. The developers, engineers don't report to you, right? The designers don't report to you. You are the owner, you are the CEO of the product, but you don't have any authority. It's the only authority that you have is how do you convince through your storytelling, through your communication, that people rally behind you to help you accomplish the mission. So communication, storytelling plays an extremely important part in doing that.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's a great. I work in a very technical role, and I don't really interface with customer-facing products very often, so I don't really have a PM that I work with. But that point of you have the only leadership style that is going to be effective is the one where you win hearts and minds. There's no other lever. You don't.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you have to like learn how to communicate with different audiences. You should know how to communicate with your customers, with your engineers, with your VPs and executive. All of them speak different languages. Not English, not per se English, but I'm saying like the VPs, they want to see business level outcomes. Engineers, they care about technical stuff. Customer, how do you solve their problems? So you should know how to speak their language and how to mold your communications based on the audience you're speaking to.
Fascinating. That sounds like a skill set that someone builds over a lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's amazing.
Right.
And hopefully my students will feel excited to hear, that those technical skills because, or they'll feel encouraged by their decision to take my class. It's really just about modern software systems, about how we put everything together, how we create a stack, how we deploy systems into the cloud. So, wow, great! Thank you so much for that. So, if you were graduating this year, and you're interviewing and you decided to pursue a career specifically in observability, where would you start?
Great question. So I think thankfully there are a lot of amazing resources on the internet, like the cloud native CNCF. There's a YouTube channel for them. There's a Slack channel that these guys have. That's one of the places I would start. Second, there are amazing hackathons that happen, right, where I would love to get some real world experience, right? So I think MLH is one of them. And then there are a couple of other hackathons that happen. If you search on the internet, you'll find it. The open source hackathons per se. Those are like really amazing, places to go and learn and get your hands dirty, because you meet like-minded people, you meet industry experts over there, and you get to practice whatever you're learning in the class out there. So definitely would leverage that. Third, I think one thing that really stands out for people who apply to these big tech companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, if they can showcase that outside of their regular university work, they did create some project by themselves, have it on GitHub, and talk about that hey, I created this application, then I set up observability on that, and these are the challenges I face and things of that nature. That shows curiosity and passion that you have towards the space, and that speaks volume, right? One thing is that you do your you do great job in like your university and you have your grades, but then what else are you doing outside the university to do learn by yourself? So that those things really stand out, and it's a great conversation to have as well, that while doing a certain thing I learned XYZ, and what are your thoughts about that, and things of that nature. So that is really very exciting for a person who is taking your interview, to see that passion come through, and helps in them to make a decision, right? Everybody wants a person in their team who's curious to learn, is not afraid of getting their hands dirty. Because I'll be honest, this field is changing so fast, so quickly, that every 1 year, 2 year, whatever you have learned becomes irrelevant, and then you have to quickly adapt and learn the new stuff. So whether you're a person who's starting early in the career, or like you're a seasoned senior principal, PM, it doesn't matter. Everybody's at the same space, learning together, and they have to move fast. So many examples, right? Kubernetes, right? In 2017, 2016, Kubernetes did not even exist, right? Suddenly Kubernetes came out of nowhere, and everybody was like, you have to learn on the go and have a observability strategy for that, right? Or AI ML, right? So that's why if you can show early in your career that you have passion, then then that means you're set for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, especially getting involved in open source. Hacktober is, one of those open source, hackathons.
Yes.
Sponsored by DigitalOcean. So anyone who's in my class during the month of October,
Awesome.
actually provide extra credit for engagement in that. And MLH, that's Major League Hacking, right? Is that
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Resources like that are so important. And yeah, absolutely. CNCF, Slack channel, even just lurking, you just learn so much. You learn like vocabulary. It's like learning a language. You're just going to start absorbing, all of these. You're like, oh, wait, what is that? What do they mean by hotel? Let me go Google that. And you just start to absorb it. It's, reading is really just, one of the best ways of picking up that this technical language so you can stay conversant.
Yeah. And then somebody might throw a video or documentation that, hey, I created this. If you want to go and learn, do this. And I have really fun, like enjoying, learning about different projects that people have created, or like a video of how they, instrumented an application with OpenTelemetry, what goodness they got out of it, and things of that nature. So, you get to learn from others while also like, putting stuff out there, what you have done as well, right? So it's a good learning / networking opportunity. And who knows, you might find a person, your next sponsor, or a person who might interview for a next job over there in the CNCF, because you have players from all over in that, Slack channel, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, what have you. Microsoft is one of the biggest sponsors or contributors of OpenTelemetry, heavily contributing OpenTelemetry. I think they're number one, if I'm not wrong.
Wow.
So you have a lot of folks from Microsoft over there. So, another networking / learning opportunity. So why not?
Amazing. Yeah, exactly. Why not? Just see what happens. Yeah, exactly. Well, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, for all of the insight and wisdom and perspective that you provided today. We're so grateful for your time. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Zara. Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun. And I hope your students like this episode and they are able to, utilize some of the resources. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you soon. Thanks.